I am going to take you on a little journey with me today. I'm going to show you what I do on a day when I know I'm going to go out and paint. So I'll start off with showing you my setup or how I pack, and then we'll go out together. So this is my painting backpack, which you may recognize from lots of other videos. And when I am ready to, or when I'm gonna go out and paint, I grab either a small setup or I'll do something like this, which is a pochade box. And the cool thing about these is that they contain everything you need. So this is a really small one. Usually a lot of them are a lot bigger, but this one is the Guerrilla Painter Thumbox. So it holds a 6x8 panel. And if you open it up, there's a little hole here which you can actually stick your thumb through and hold the box, but that's too heavy for me, so I just covered the hole up with tape. And this is a piece of wood, so I actually tape a piece of palette paper to that so that when I'm out painting, I don't like mixing on this surface. This is nice and smooth, so it works perfectly. So I definitely need a little spray bottle. I need my brushes. This is how I store my paint. Sometimes I'll like kind of rifle around in there and get a new color. But lately you've probably seen that I'm using my palette box, and I have it wrapped in a plastic bag because I just want it to be as airtight as possible. So I will throw it in here. Like that. The plastic bag also sort of insulates it a little in there so it's not jostling around as much. And then I can just slide that shut and clip it shut. And it's nice and secure. And this thing has fallen off a cliff. It has fallen down a bunch of rocks almost into the ocean. It has survived a lot of abuse, so I can highly recommend these things. If you're worried about it spilling, you can maneuver it so it's flat in the bottom of your backpack. It barely fits in this backpack when it's like that, but it also gives me a nice stable flat surface in there so I could put whatever else I wanted to on top of it that I didn't want to spill. This is a brush holder. And it's very convenient because all you do is you just slide your brushes in there. I usually double up the smaller ones because this thing, because they can slide out if they're too small. By the way, I'm doing all this with one hand. Aren't you impressed? And then I just roll it up and I can toss this in my bag. So I come over here to my secret nightmare storage system. Not really. This is just like a ever-changing area. I have lots of different papers. I also keep lots of paintings up here that I'm sort of like in progress with. And eventually I've put all of these away upstairs, so they don't live up here forever, live down here forever. But yesterday I did this. This is hot press watercolor paper that I pre-painted with a gray acrylic gouache layer. So I have 3 of those ready to go. And later I'll show you how I will set everything up when I'm outside. It just barely fits, it just barely closes in there. Also very important to have water because you need something to mix and clean the brushes with, and a cloth of some kind or paper towels. I also want to point out that I always have different types of pencils and pens, sunscreen, brushes, like 1 or 2 extra brushes that I don't care if I lose, just to have, because I've actually gone out many times and forgotten one of those things I just showed you. So at least I know, no matter what, I have something to use. So let's take a look. Pretty much at all times, I have my Guerrilla Painter chair. Not always because I'm going to use it, but because I can store stuff in it and it just kind of stays out of the sun, a little bit hidden. So there's a tripod in there, there's a little fold-up seat and some other stuff. that'll show you later. Okay, so I made it to Cove Bay, which you might recognize from a recent video I posted. I painted this scene down here. And I think I'm gonna set up a little bit higher this time, out of the wind a little bit more, and also because, well, the law of plein air means it's probably about to rain. It started sprinkling as soon as I got here and the wind picked up, so I don't know how much time I have here. So this is a little fold-up seat that I bought at an outdoor store. It's thermal and waterproof, and it's amazing. I carry it with me wherever I go. I have a couple tripods. This is for the camera, and this is for the pochade box. I have a battery backup for my phone, and then this is the umbrella, which can attach to this, and I can position it in whichever position I need it to, because there's all these little holes that you can screw it into, and this can be moved as well. It's a little bit too windy, I think, today for it, so I'm not going to use it unless it's an emergency. Virtual Sarah here. I'm gonna talk you guys through some of the struggles and issues that I've faced in this session, which are not uncommon when plein air painting. It only takes me about 2 to 3 minutes to actually set up everything, and that's not even with me rushing. Psychologically, it can be a barrier, thinking I have so much stuff to set up, but in reality, it's not that bad. After setting up, I like to take some time to observe my subject. And sometimes I'll just stare at it for a while, and then it's really good practice to do some quick sketches and value studies if there's time. Sometimes the light is changing so quickly that you don't have a lot of time for this, but it is so helpful. Here I'm using watercolor pencil on toned paper, and I'm trying out a few different compositions. I'll use this as an opportunity to really hone in on what exactly I want to paint or to capture in this scene. And I can use a brush pen like this with clear water, clean water, not colored or anything. And as I squeeze it out, it dilutes the pencil and I can create these really big shadow areas. So it's a super fast way to do value studies. Then I'll choose my favorite composition and dive into the painting. This watercolor palette box keeps my gouache moist, and you may have seen it in previous videos, and this was actually filmed back in July, so it was before I changed out all my colors, and quite a few of the colors that are in this particular setup were really old, and some of them were starting to dry out, which ended up being my biggest source of frustration during this session, which we'll get to. Even if you have the perfect method for keeping your gouache from drying out instantly, it's so much harder in plein air because the air just sucks out that moisture. And this was a pretty humid day, I think about 50% humidity, so I thought it would be okay. But even on a humid day, gouache just dries quickly. When I arrived to this spot, it was very overcast, but soon after I started painting, the clouds dispersed and the sun was just beating down on the gouache the whole time. Here I'm testing a few colors before I start painting. Last time I painted this subject, I got very confused by the colors of the rock. My internal dialogue goes something like this. Do I paint the local color, as in the actual color of the rock? The areas that have eroded away are bright orange, even in the shadows. So how do I differentiate the highlight and shadow areas as well as the different colored rock? Does it even matter? What's the point of this? I can't do this. Ugh, I should just leave. Okay, I know that sounds really dramatic, but it tends to happen to me when I'm painting outside. I'm pretty good at painting color and light from reference photos, but it's just so darn hard outside in person. This is where we really need to be patient with ourselves. I've been doing this for so long and I still struggle every single time in some way. But as I say in many of my videos, that's when I know I'm learning. And it just seems to be that plein air painting requires way more repetition than any other type of painting that I've tried. As I started my second study, I knew I was going to have more time, so I tried to really slow down and be careful in observing the color. By now, you can see in the video, especially in the background, there are way more intense light and shadow areas because the sun is out in full force. So this is when my paint really started to dry out super quick, and that frustration set in. It's not only difficult to mix color with gouache, but when it's constantly drying and your brush just clogs up so fast, you have to clean it off and then get more color, and usually that means you have to mix more color, and it's just like you're constantly babysitting your palette. It's really useful to keep a little spray bottle on hand so you can continually spritz your palette so it doesn't completely dry out. Quick tip, you can hold your brush up with the color on it to see how close you've matched to your subject. It's something that I've started to do way more lately, and it really does help. Despite doing value studies beforehand, I struggled so much to see the correct values in the actual rock structure. To my eyes, the edge that was bright orange and kind of facing to the left looked brighter than the edge that was facing me. But in retrospect, I realized I had it backwards. If I take away the color, I can see that that part is in shadow and is darker than the side that's facing me, even though in person it was super bright orange. Color can so easily play tricks on us, but this is something that can improve over time with lots of repetition. I find that the longer of a break I take from doing plein air painting, I feel like I fall out of practice. So when I go back out, even if I had gotten really good at finding values in the landscape and just really seeing proper color, I struggle a lot. And it's almost like I have to relearn some of those things or retrain my eye. Another really challenging part of plein air painting is that the light changes. So even though the sun was out for the majority of this painting, it got really, really bright at this point. So the dramatic shadows you see are even darker. And I was silly and I decided to try to adjust my painting to match the new lighting. Whereas I would suggest it's best to choose a light, like find the light and keep it the same on the painting throughout the whole session. Otherwise, you're just constantly going back and forth and trying to adjust it. And again, that can just be super frustrating. I'm not trying to be overly negative about going out and doing plein air painting. In fact, it is so incredibly enjoyable. It's just that there are some very universal challenges that happen. And you might be an extremely competent painter and then you go outside and everything you thought you knew is wrong or it's all different. But no matter what, the lessons I learn while painting outside are so incredibly valuable that I will take that frustration any day. A photograph flattens the subject, the lighting, the colors, and gives it to you on a silver platter. All you have to do is get really good at copying what you see. But when you're outside, you're seeing a 3D object. You have to somehow distill all that information onto a 2D surface, and you're viewing the colors as they change in the lighting and trying to really understand what values each color is. So that said, I know it's all a lot to take in, and if you aren't used to doing it, it can be pretty scary. And again, all those frustrations are there, but you will learn so much and you will improve your understanding of color and light in a landscape tenfold at least. So it's definitely worth it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As a reminder, it's Sketchtember, and I'm going to be streaming every Friday here on YouTube for a couple hours doing my sketches. So if you'd like to improve your landscape sketches, come join me, or you can watch the replay and join in the timed sketches that way. I think I'm going to go make some brownies and coffee, and tomorrow I'm going to head outside for some plein air painting. Hopefully I'll see you guys again soon in my streams, but otherwise, see you in the next video.